So everybody's talking about AI, right? There's agents, there's all these tools, there's ChatGPT, there's Claude, there's Leonard AI. Leonard AI, are you familiar with that? That's the one that creates the images, which are actually pretty awesome. Grok, infinite amount of things that are out there. If you don't have AI on your website by now, you're behind, right? This is what everybody's talking about and what the boardrooms are thinking about. This is what strategy is today, is how do we use AI? Why aren't we using AI? Are we going to be left behind with AI, without AI? Right? So I think the answer to all of that is yes. AI is here. It's not going away, and it is real this time. But I think today what I'd like to focus on is not the tactical things that that a lot of us are focused on. Is how do I use AI in my sales or in my marketing? How do I build bots? How do I use agents within my coding and all of those things? Those are all good. But it's interesting to think about, just as a thought experiment, where is AI going to take us? And of course, I am not the perfect expert on this, and there's lots of thoughts that are out there. But I think it's an interesting conversation to think about really where is this thing going? And I think at this point we've seen the patterns of what AI is useful for, where it's good, and how it can be used. And so it'd be fun topic to think about. Where's this going? Where does this look like, say, in 30 years, in 50 years? Maybe not quite that long, but in 10 years, where's our world going to look like? And so I wanted to share a little graphic that I put together, which is just a sketch. And so here we're just talking about, going to start with software development. So obviously, as you guys know, that's kind of my space where I grew up. So I have a lot of interest in that, but also just a lot of back experience, right? So if we look down at the bottom, software development being in the middle, right? Down at the bottom, if we think about where we've been, and really we're on the razor's edge of where we're going, because we are going there today. So down at the bottom, software development typically is high cost, takes a lot of management, a long lead time. I mean, just to get a software product out in 8 months that's production ready and ready to go is a pretty good timeline. Most of the time you can get some MVPs out in a short amount of time, actualize your ROI, right, your investment, and get some return, which is what we've always done over the last, say, 15 years, 20 years since agile development's been invented, right? And we started working in that manner. But really, in order to mature a product, it's really going to take you that 18 months, that 12 months, 18 months, maybe 24 months. And then it's a whole evolution from there, right? You're taking pretty large strides, but in a slow pace, right? We talk about rapid development today, and that's continuous deployments every day, every week, right? But it's still a lot of high costs, a lot of management. And then I've got an interesting there, and I'm saying that it's low skill. And the reason why I say it's low skill, not to say that you do have to know what you're doing, but today's development world, especially at the enterprise level, it's a body count, right? So the more bodies that I put into it, right, the more offshore bodies I can get writing code, putting things together, the better off I am, right? In some instances, and I don't take that as a right, but in my experience, IT is broken. Software development is very broken. And if we take the 100%, I give it 15% are the cream. They have high skill. The 85% are just bodies, right? They're just doing stuff. And that, again, in order to be able to crank out the code, you need people doing stuff, right? Do I rely on them on high quality, making good decisions, good designs? Not so much. No. And so what we're seeing over the last, say, 2-3 years, and even today, this whole thing is accelerating, which are the layoffs, right? Especially in the tech industry, we're seeing more and more talk, but also action where tens of thousands of layoffs, right, in the tech world. And that's because things are shifting, right? And that bloat that we have anyway is now becoming realized, and it's not an economic condition. Normally, the bloat and the layoffs occur because we're having a recession, right? And so it's necessary, but also an opportunity to reduce our costs. So that's not where we are today. We're seeing a disruption in the software development world. So then you could say, all right, for the last 20 years or so, typically the investment is hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars to build your product, and it takes months to years to build that out. So then if we go above the fold, and let's just start our counter for right now to in 2025, right, for the next 25 years or so, we can imagine that if we look up at the top, we've got low cost, low management, and increased skill. And I'll talk about that. But the lead time gets condensed, and I'm talking about building software products. So now we're talking days, weeks to develop software, production-ready software. And why is that? Because we can use the AI to write a lot of the code, and we can have it, we can talk with it, and we don't have to spend the cognitive load thinking about code and how it should be written and how it should be designed and formatted. We can have an interaction with AI, and it'll give us that back in seconds, right? And then so the high skill, though, is now that 15% that we have today that are highly skilled, good software craftsmen, as I would call them. Now they raise up, and now they're more orchestrators, right? And I have a friend that calls them the architects, right? They're the architects who are able to interact with the AI code generation, and then be able to integrate that code and stitch it all together so that you get more of a production system in a faster way. Less cost because now you don't need all the bodies, right? Instead of 100 people, now you need 15. And those 15 are highly skilled craftsmen, engineers, architects, orchestrators that are now using AI to crank out all the code, right? And so what's the management look like? The management also goes down because now you have fewer orchestrators, architects, working on all the code, putting it all together, and you don't need that whole big bloat of PMO, project management office, which is yeah, right? So you can see how software development has an opportunity to reduce costs, reduce the bloat, utilize the highly skilled software engineers, architects, I want to call them orchestrators. You would spend thousands to hundreds of thousands instead of millions, and you get production-like software in days to weeks, maybe even just in a few months, right? And so, again, the thought experiment is, yeah, is that happening today? Yeah, it's starting to happen, and but we're projecting out. We're taking the thought experiment. What does life as a software developer look like in the future? And we've gone through this kind of golden age period of software developers where you get a high salary, right? Because there was a high demand. You could basically pick where you wanted to go as a software developer, make a nice chunk of money. That's going to go away because it's not going, the model going forward is not going to support that many people, right? It's not going to support the 100 people. It's going to support the 15, but not the other 85, right? So anyway, something to be thinking about, and where that can go. So what does that mean? That means a speed to innovation. So I thought it would be also cool to think about the data strategy side. So take away the whole software product development side, but let's just think about what AI is. AI is essentially a data strategy. So it's a neural network, right? And it's able to quote unquote logically put things together and make decisions, right? In order for it to do that, it has to have data, and it has to have reasonable data for it to be able to manage the neural network, right? To take advantage of the neural network. And so if we think about, again, the previous 20 years with data, large data sets, that's been a thing that we've had forever. And we've got lots of tools to be able to mine that data, right? With business intelligence, there's lots of tools around that. But there's also a lot of gaps. So we have high gaps in our understanding of that data. We just can't process it. We don't have the machine learning capabilities to process it all. And then we also don't have the human cognitive load to be able to go through a terabyte of data and really understand, right, what that means. And so that means the inference is very low. So high gaps, low inference. And then you're also thinking about with the large data sets, we get more innovation, but it's still limited, right? So going forward, more and more data, massive data sets. With AI, that reduces the gaps in the data, meaning how do I analyze the data? How do I mine the data? How do I find the patterns within the data? So my inference goes way up, almost near 100, right? Because the AI can just process massive data sets. And so what does that mean? Instead of increased innovation with data, with large data sets, with massive data sets, we start to get invention. Things that a team of super smart, say anybody in a specific field with physical architecture, software development, that we can innovate and have some good innovation, but the invention side of things is going to take us some time, where AI allows us to start to invent and understand things that we never would have drawn out without the AI to be able to draw it out for us, right? So that's setting the stage of what AI is. And then you can see how we get speed to innovation on the software development side and just on the technical side itself. And then you get speed to invention because of the ability to ingest massive data sets and to be able to infer what's going on and how they can integrate, right? It's multifactorial, right? So there's lots of different angles, variables within the data set that the AI can manage for you, which is very difficult for a human team. So then we can say, well, what impacts does that have? And I'm talking about software development, but we could think about our agriculture, urban and rural development. How do we do city planning? So we can put in these aspirations of we want to have a highly efficient energy cost and usage, climate friendly, clean, either in pollution or sanitation, right? We want to have high green space vegetation. We want to be able to have an environment that is purely friendly for walking and pedestrians. And you could give this aspirational prompt to AI with its access to all of this massive data and say, build me a city, or give me a plan so that I could add this aspirational thing, right? This urban area to my city, right? And you could see how you can get these inventions of ideas and integrations of ideas that would be very difficult or take a long time for us to do as a human team. So anyway, urban rural planning, government, thinking about government bills, policies, regulations, how are they affecting all of those things. Education is going to be completely different than going forward than what we've ever known, and how we ingest information, most likely with AI generated videos based on historical books and textbooks, right? So the ingestion is going to be much more interactive, much more video based, much more visual. How do we do energy R&D, nuclear, right? Wind, solar, all those kinds of things, space exploration, medical care, on and 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 on. And so all of this is to say that we're not talking about the tools inside any of these things. That will come out, and those were how we work and all of that. That's the micro. We're talking about the macro side of things, that when we start taking massive data sets on education and we start throwing in all the textbooks, all the historical documents, all the historical geographic information, architectural information, anthropology information, and we just take that all together as one massive data set. And then we say an aspirational prompt is, build me a curriculum for kindergarten to third grade on X, right? And it starts to create different ideas and ways of communicating and teaching that maybe we've never used before. Now, again, that doesn't take away taking back the software development side. It doesn't mean that AI is in charge and AI will just do it. We still need those orchestrators in each of these industries, these domain experts who orchestrate the information that comes, the ideas, the inventions that come from AI, so that they can be orchestrated and said, nope, that's not how we do things. Nope, not ethically equivalent. Nope, moral standards, not liking it. We need to have better moral standards, better ethics. Nope, we don't want to do it that way. We know this doesn't work, and we refine and we orchestrate, right? So there will be those highly skilled orchestrators in every industry that are going to integrate all of these inventions that AI is going to create. And so what does that mean? For me, it's just, I coined it the golden age of marvelous works. So what does that mean? We're talking about high aspirations, right? High governance. That's that 15% that are very skilled in their domain. They're very good at what they do. They're able to conceptually understand broad topics and be very broad in their thinking, taking all these different points and then condense them down, right? So that's the governance side of things. And then obviously we have the moral and ethical side that we want to adhere to within our AI models. And then what that means is our skilled labor is going to go up. So what's naturally going to happen within all of these industries is we're going to need things. So let's take the city planning. And now we've got these cool blueprints for different cities on how we do the waste management, how we do the water management, how we do the park management, how we do transportation, and all of these inventions, even coming from the transportation side. Maybe transportation is inventing, right, new ways of transportation. And so these blueprints are going to come out, and then what are we going to do with that? AI cannot go build the city. AI cannot go put together the landscape for a new type of farm, or hydroponic farming in buildings or in cities, and all these new things that can come out. We're going to have to build those things. And skilled labor is something that we lack, excuse me, that we lack today. We have a lot of white collar jobs, right? Everybody says white collar. I will never work in a factory. I will never work in the farms, right? That's blue collar. I'll never go work on building the roads or building buildings. That's blue collar, right? We're going to have an inversion where the white collar jobs, those orchestrators, are going to be fewer because we've got the AI to invent a lot of the blueprints and the ideas and the inventions. And then we're going to need a lot of skilled labor in order to implement all of those things. So you can think about the things that are coming out, right? That could be coming in, right? We've got talking about the nanotechnology. We're talking about different, maybe in the space. There's all kinds of manufacturing things that we will need. There's all kinds of skilled labor that we will need in building things, either out in the rural landscape, like buildings and bridges and those kinds of things, or even in the factory. And we're think about residential, how much residential buildings may change, and the landscaping around them may change with more of an aspirational, high aspiration of maybe this even utopian designs that get implemented by high skill labor. So anyway, it's a fun idea. It's a fun topic to think about. Is it going to come true? I don't know. That's what a thought experiment is for. But it's thought experiments create conversation, create debate. Yeah, but what about this? Ooh, yeah, you're mentioning that. Think about what this could look like. And it's very fun to be thinking about. And there's a lot of cool things on the horizon.